Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Wheezy. So, today we are going to celebrate Senior Health and Wellness Day. It is each year the third Wednesday of May. This year it will be May 25th. So, I thought this was a perfect time to bring on an expert who teaches a Chinese form of exercise, an ancient exercise to help with flexibility. Who doesn't need that? Balance and strength. And one of the side effects is maybe some well being, mental well being. And in these days, who really doesn't need that? So come on ahead and join me for another episode of Wheezy. Welcome back. So today I have with me Richard Cummings. He is an instructor of the ancient form of Chinese exercise called Tai Chi. Welcome, Richard. How are you today?
Good morning. Good. I'm doing really good today. Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. I am so excited to jump into this subject of Tai Chi and just learn all the benefits of what the exercise brings to you. So, how long have you been doing Tai Chi, Richard?
I have been doing Tai Chi for 37 years. Started a long
Wow.
time ago. Yes.
Wow, that is a long time. So in doing Tai Chi, how did you get interested in doing this form of exercise?
Well, I've actually been involved in martial arts, Chinese martial arts, for way back to when I was 10, 11 years old. We lived near an army base in North Carolina, and one of the kids I knew who was Korean, his dad was a special forces instructor of Korean martial arts. So I got involved with that. And later on, we moved to Florida. I had another friend who was taking classes, kung fu classes, and I really wanted to go, but we really couldn't afford to send me. So he would kind of teach me on the side, which I understand now. It's like the taught being taught, but and then later on, when I was about 30 years old, uh, is when I started kung fu, and then got into Tai Chi shortly thereafter, um, because I was competing in martial arts tournaments. And back in the day, they would have Tai Chi and Kung Fu competing in the same category, even though they're not. One's internal, one's external. But this was back in the day. Well, it was frustrating me because I do pretty well, but at several of the tournaments in the state of Florida, there was an old guy, older than I am now, and he moved like barely moving right every single time I competed against him, the guy would beat me, and I'm like, I it frustrated me to no end. And then I think as a result of that, I came into class one day and we were doing kicks, and I just was kicking really high and really hard, and I kind of I pulled a butt muscle, if you will, up in my tailbone, and I tried to get healthy from it for a month or two. Tried all kind of massages and exercise and stretching, and I just wasn't getting anywhere. My teacher said, you need to give Kung Fu a break here and give yourself a chance to heal. And said, why don't you try Tai Chi? And so I started taking Tai Chi. I really didn't like it at the beginning. That was too small, too slow for me. And, I'm a type A personality. So I really didn't like it. But the more I got into it, now it's the great love of my life. I still practice Chinese martial arts, Kung Fu, but I'm getting kind of long in the tooth for that kind of stuff, rolling around the ground and that kind of fighting. So I'm looking for, the health benefits of it. And I've been teaching for a number of years. So I see the help that I can give other people. And actually, as a result of being in Tai Chi, I realize that I need Tai Chi as much as anybody I'm teaching needs it. So it's
the,
really helped me
the
to,
teacher is also the student.
you, you
keep
don't
keep
really know
practicing.
something till you teach it. That's what they say.
Boy, have I ever learned that
Yeah,
in
you
doing
really.
what I do. So for for people who they may have an idea about what Tai Chi is and they may know that it's a Chinese form of exercise, but could you give us a better explanation about what Tai Chi truly is?
So it's basically an internal art, meaning it has to do with your feelings and it has to do with your mind is telling your body what to do and your body is listening to your mind and following correctly. But it's a way of slow movements. And I say slow, there are different styles of Tai Chi. Some are faster. The original style of Tai Chi is and was called Chen style, Chen, and it is punctuated by fast and hard and then slow moving. So it almost looks like a kung fu type thing for short bursts, and then it also moves slowly. There's other style which I teach, Yang style. Yang style is probably the most well known across the country and in the world in that it is more upright, not as low, more slow moving, and smaller steps. So what it does is it's a it's a martial arts used for practicing self defense. There's push hands where we're practicing basically someone's pushing me and I keep my center of balance while they push me. This is all controlled setting, and then also for the health
Can I
benefits.
just ask a question right there?
Sure,
So if is that just like when you were talking about the pushing and you're standing straight, is that just like in the movement or do you actually operate that with a partner?
you do operate it with partners. Matter of fact, there are competitions, and that's the ultimately the highest level of Tai Chi. The people who are practicing it for a self defense, because Tai Chi is a martial art. It's a matter of fact, people call it the ancient martial art. It's actually the
That's
new god.
what I read. Is there was
It's
a
the it's not really ancient. It's maybe well, it's relative term. Ancient, when I think ancient, I'm thinking thousands of years. So, for example, the reference, the Shaolin Temple in China was 1,500 years old in 1995. I was there. I went to a trip there. Okay, Tai Chi's only been around for about 350 years. So
okay.
it's the newer of the martial arts, and it's for the first time ever. It's not strength against strength. It's finesse against strength. In other words, losing to win type of thing. So
Mhm.
there is a competition. There's standing competition. We both stand on one side of a line and we push, and whoever loses their step first across the line loses. There's also freestyle push hands, which is done in a circle, like sumo wrestles, if you will. So we push around in a circle, and whoever goes outside the circle first is the winner,
Okay.
is the loser. So there are that's the higher form. Honestly, it
But
has its
what would we be doing if we were like to come to your class and what would we be
mostly,
practicing?
well, especially during COVID. That a lot of things changed during COVID, so we weren't doing any contact to contact. But before that time, we would practice push hand drills, and but mostly we'd be working on the form. And the form itself, there's several forms. One of the forms that we practice, the most significant one, is called the long form. It's 108 movements. It takes about 20 minutes to do it. It can be done a little faster. It can be done a lot slower. So that's one of the benefits of teaching how to go slow and also a little faster. There's shorter movements like 24 movement. 24 movement form was created back in by the Chinese government in 1956, and it was a way for all the different Tai Chi masters under the government's care and committee came together in 1956 and created this standardized form. It was a way the Chinese government planned to offer the benefits of Tai Chi to the masses. So one of the ways to do that was to teach a standard form that everybody agreed upon, had all the benefits of Tai Chi, had all the principles of Tai Chi within it, but yet was only 5 or 6 minutes long. So everybody could get up in the morning, you know, back in 1995, everybody ride their bicycle down to the nearest park or gymnasium or lobby of a hotel or something like that, and there'd be a few teachers up front, and they would practice this 24 movements. There's also weapons forms, excuse me, in Tai Chi. There is a straight sword, there is a fan form, there's a broadsword, There's a big kwando. So there's several weapons in Tai Chi as well, and they're also done slowly, methodically, and in balance to derive all the benefits of Tai Chi. So there's a lot to it. Really is a lot to it. Somebody who can make it look very slow and comforting. It's like anything. Somebody does something well, it looks easy, but it's really not. It's simple, but it's really not. So
And they've practiced a very long time to make it
a
look
couple of times.
effortless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People ask me, how do I do that? I go, well, I've practiced it a couple of times. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I practice the basics just like a brand new person because every person who walks in the door, I have to start from the beginning. And
S-
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I interrupted you.
So when they walk in the door and we start at the beginning, granted, all the rest of the students are going to start from the beginning as well. So we go through the same. So it's a reiteration of the teachings that you get from the very beginning.
Yeah.
So everybody gets it, and you can't. As a matter of fact, the fundamentals or the basics is the most important thing. You can add more to it, but you can typically see the skill level of someone within just a few moments.
The
So
that's always the thing of life. It's know your basics, have your foundation, and the more you have your foundation set, you can flow off of that much easier. So, Richard, well, people, you might notice Richard now has on headphones. We had a little technical issue. His earbuds died, and now we have headphones on. So,
hopefully
uh,
they won't die.
they, they are not going to die because we're doing just fine here. So, anyway, but that's the beauty of video. So, Richard, moving on. So, what are some of the benefits of Tai Chi?
Well, there's quite a few benefits actually, and thank you for asking. One of the main benefits that I see when people come to visit me about Tai Chi is,
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there. You got to keep your paper quiet because now, for some
oh,
reason, everything's picking up. I never heard it
okay,
before. So things are picking up good.
maybe,
I think your mic's fine. It was just as your paper's rattling. That was all.
all right, I'll stop.
There you go. Okay, so I'm going to go back and repeat the question, and we'll start from there. So Richard, what are some of the benefits of doing Tai Chi?
Well, there's quite a few benefits, and thanks for asking. One of the main, I think, probably the primary thing we get from Tai Chi when they come start from scratch is uh, a need to try to refine and get it over their balance, a sense of balance. They'll maybe lose their sense of balance on something simple like stepping into the shower or getting them out of bed or reaching for a box over their head or something like that. And then maybe they'll go to a doctor. The doctor will tell them to start doing some certain kinds of exercises or send them to another therapist or something like that. But now more and more doctors are saying, if you really want to work on your balance and you're going to work on something long term, Tai Chi is a perfect place to start with that. So, and I say that because people, when you get to a certain age, it's almost like you take your body for granted that it's there. And so what happens is you really start to lose the ability to feel yourself. You can't tell that your feet are positioned in a certain way. One foot's this way, the other foot's that way. You can't tell that you kind of crossed up. You can't tell that your body weight shifted forward or backwards. And so when we begin in Tai Chi with just standing meditation, we'll shift our weight from one side to the other. They'll start to regain. Well, I can feel my ankles again, and I can feel my knees again. I can feel where my hips are again. So you're always trying to feel. So Tai Chi has a lot to do with feeling what you're doing. Just reattaching yourself to what you're doing and making sure, oh, hey, the reason I'm feeling like I'm falling all the time is because my head's tipped forward and my whole body's kind of at an angle, which I really am tipped forward and losing it. So, and then we began to do very basic stuff, just simply from shifting from one foot to another. Eventually, we shift from one foot to another. You'll be able to lift your foot maybe an inch or two off the floor. Can you balance on that? and then you shift back and you balance the other. So everybody's got really good balance typically if their feet are set. When you're having a problem is when you're shifting from one foot to another, or it's either slow or fast, either way. So they'll learn that to trust themselves and to refeel it. And I've had people who came in and they've told me everything. I can't do it. It's my shoes. They don't work like yours, or my body doesn't work like yours. And everyone's body, you know, can get the benefit from it. They've done lots of studies about how to get your balance back. There's different techniques, but they all have to do with practice and practicing on balancing. And you can do something simple like brushing your teeth, stand on one leg, and or while you're doing the dish, you stand on one leg, or and standing on one leg. That's it, just a momentarily or for a long time, standing on one leg. So you get the balance back. That's super important. And when you get your balance back, you're getting your strength back because your muscles and your tendons and your musculature and your bones are all aligning themselves to take this added weight and to correctly balance it. So you're getting strength back.
Yeah.
And
I so hear what you're saying because you know, as my parents got older, that was one thing that they lost. They it wasn't just balance, it was um the ability to get up off of the
oh
floor.
yeah,
If they, if they got down, they couldn't get back up. And I have developed a form of scoliosis myself. And I got to the point where, and it really scared me because I got thinking about my dad and several times where he got laying down flat and he
yes,
couldn't get up and he had to call for thank goodness he had a cell phone in his pocket. He had to call for help or somebody came along and were able to get him back up. But it was terrifying because here the man was, in his late 80s and living alone because at that time by this time my mom's living in a nursing home. And
yes,
then I start developing this and my back had and my core had gotten so weak. I was finding I could barely get up off the floor. And I'm
yes,
only in my 50s. That's terrifying. And
it
all I
is.
could think about was my dad. And so I started practicing just regrouping my body, getting my body set and working. So now I can go from cross-legged to standing up and without assistance. And so I'm like really happy. And but you know we really cannot take all of that stuff because I'm sure the core is very engaged too,
It's
your
totally
stomach
engaged.
muscles
Your
when
stomach
you are
and your
doing
back.
this.
So I have a friend of mine. We play golf once in a while, but he's a nurse at an emergency room at the hospital. That's what he does. And I asked him, well, he's down in Venice, Florida, which is, the old folks center of Sarasota County. We have saying, my grandparents live in Sarasota and their parents live in Venice, type of a joke. But I asked him what's the number one thing that he gets when he comes to the hospital. He says the number one problem is lack of physical strength. People just like your dad, they can't get up out of the chair. They get on the floor, they can't get up. They can't uncross their legs. It's something as simple as your legs are crossed is getting them uncrossed so you can roll over to get up. It's really basic. The problem is, I'll call it, I think there is a tipping point. Some people, again, they'll take it for granted of where they're going. They know the warning signs are there, like you've got a warning sign. The warning sign's there, but they ain't paying attention. And all of a sudden, they'll need it one time and they can't find it. So, what we do in Tai Chi is if you get to the point where you can take a normal stride across the floor, just a normal walk, without wobbling and losing, or the worst thing is you'll see if you've seen it. You see seniors who are maybe they don't have to be that old, even 70s or 80s or even 90s, where their feet start to shuffle. So they're shuffling their feet. They're just
My
they're almost
mom
like,
got like that.
so when you're shuffling your feet, you're doing that as a survival mechanism. What you're trying to do is, imagine if you will, you have a circle and say you're standing in a circle. You can lean to one side of the circle or another and find your balance. But when you have lost your balance so bad that if your feet are like this, the only place you feel balance, can you see my hand? The only
Yes.
place you would feel balance is a little circle right between your feet. In other words, if you took a plumb bob from your waist down to the floor, that circle's about that big around. So when they shuffle, they're keeping their center right on that bubble, and that stops them from falling over. But that's also why it's so important for seniors who have lost their balance to be very mindful of falling, because next thing you know, you lose your balance and you fall. You break your hip, and that's one of the great tragedies of aging. If you break your hip, it can all go down the tubes, down the drain real quick after that.
Yes,
Now
that's
you
why I
lose more
wanted to
mobility. Yeah,
that's why
go
I
ahead.
wanted to do this to bring awareness, on seniors health and wellness day is,
Right.
bringing together, just these thoughts. I actually saw a post on one of my Facebook groups that I belong to, and somebody posed the question. It's like, do you practice getting up off the floor as a
Yes.
senior?
Yes.
Um, and it was really amazing how, and I think in this day and age, and there's so much more information out there, that people are becoming much more aware of that they need to do something with the help, self care of
Right.
the exercise and keeping that strength and practicing balance. I've been practicing balance. I had vertigo horridly like 5 or 6 years ago, and ever since then, it's been, practicing balance for me.
It's not something that um, in other words, it's a skill that you get, and it only stays a skill as long as you practice the skill.
Practice it.
Because
Mhm.
when we went down with COVID in March 2020, uh, everybody was locked down. Nobody was going anywhere. They closed the where I was teaching Tai Chi down. Nobody even wanted to go out in their front yard. Nobody saw one another. Only families saw each other, that kind of stuff, unless it was absolutely necessary. Well, this went on for several months. We finally did open up the school again in September of that same year, but that was a good 6 months later. The first few weeks of going back to class, I noticed a definite difference in the balance that I had. And I realized at that time that no matter what the condition is, whether you're a shut in or living at home or wherever else, you still got to practice these balance exercises no matter where you're at. And the other thing I would just make sure that I let your viewers hear from me is, if you have lost your balance and you're older, and some people are losing their balance a lot earlier than you think they are in their 50s. It's not that uncommon. People are starting to lose their balance. And like I say, they're not paying attention to it. So they're letting it go by. But
Mhm.
what happens is they'll come to me and say, I'm going to take classes with Rich. So I teach 2 nights a week for an hour. And we do a lot of balance exercises and movement and simple exercises. But I tell them, look, it took you 50 or 60 years to get where you're at now. Imagine the amount of effort it's going to take you to get it back where you want it to be. You're not going to be able to follow me for 2 hours a week and expect to see dramatic improvements in your balance. You will slightly improve. You will improve more if you do more. Because again, we're starting to learn to feel yourself again that you haven't felt for a while. You're starting to pay attention to those warning signs that are telling you, oh, dude, I'm kind of wobbly. And then you're starting to develop more core strength, your ankles, your hips, your thighs, your waist, your back, your stomach, your shoulders, even how you carry your head. All
Mhm.
these things contribute to the whole
Posture
theme,
is so important.
and you need to practice it religiously. And so, I mean, like I said early, I need it as bad as anybody. So I
Yeah.
need Tai Chi, and it's like the Star Wars thing. The I need Tai Chi, and Tai Chi's in me. So that kind of thing.
Awesome. Um, so you teach in a parks and rec type situation, but of course, my viewers are all over the country.
Yeah, you
If
don't.
they if they
Sorry.
don't know, or I didn't say that right. So my viewers are all over the country. Where would
right?
you suggest they could find if they were interested in taking Tai Chi and learning more about it? What would be your suggestions of them finding more information or places where they could go practice?
That's a good question. Like for example, right here, I have one of the only websites available in like a two-county area. So it's not like I'm not saying I'm not the only teacher. I know that, but there's a not a lot of people. Number one, they're not making a lot of money off it. Number two, they're not interested in getting a lot of students. They're not doing it. I mean, like for me, I started off because I needed it as much as anyone else, and so I practiced it, and I wanted to pass along what I've learned. I like to teach. So if you don't know anything, you could certainly look for a few ways. One of them is if you get the newspaper, at least in here, they offer like once a week or every other week, you'll see a blurb that comes up in one of the upcoming things to do this today or tomorrow. It'll be something in the paper about their teaching Qigong or Tai Chi in the park. You can go and try a class, see if you like it or not. If you don't see anything like that, you can go onto Google on your computer and put in Tai Chi local and see what's showing up. There'd be something in there, I'm sure, unless I mean, you could live in a very small area, but there's lots and lots of people who are doing it. Maybe you have to travel for half an hour. I mean, I traveled for an hour to take Kung Fu classes in Tampa when I was working in Sarasota. So it's what you want to do and pay for. And then the other thing is, if you find someone like me who's a teacher, you could ask them, what do you recommend? You're too far away or you're too close or whatever else, and then you can help them with that. So those are the obvious ones. My personal preference is you get a teacher. The teacher can look at you, can sense what you're doing. The teacher has experience in saying, well, you don't have your weight right there, your forces are over here, and help you to correct some of your mistakes. I realize you can't always get the teacher. Secondary issue is there are places like on Zoom where you can go into Google and you can look. There are teachers that teach nationally and internationally Tai Chi. You can join them, pay a monthly or per class fee to take classes from them. Some of them, if it's a small one-on-one, I can do a Zoom. You can see me move. I can see you move. You can do that. Some teachers, like myself, occasionally teach classes one-on-one Zoom. But there again, it's not the same as real life, but it beats not being there. Okay, if not that, and that's not available, or maybe you can't afford it, or whatever the reasons might be, there's also, you can go on your computer and you could go to YouTube as a prime example. There are literally thousands of videos in YouTube. They will take every portion of Tai Chi and break it down. There are plenty of exercises and videos in YouTube that show balance exercises, balance during Tai Chi, walking during Tai Chi, movements in Tai Chi, and the different varieties of Tai Chi. For example, one of the most common things we do in the form is they call Tai Chi Walking. It's a slow, thoughtful movement of walk where you're balancing in one leg and then you're taking a step and then shifting your weight to the other leg and taking a step. So we go from weight to weight to weight.
Mm,
If
hmm.
you were to pull up Tai Chi Walking in YouTube, you'd find dozens of videos that talk about this.
And would you suggest that would be a good place to start if you were
It, it,
going that route?
it, it is, again, I preface this, no one's watching your mistakes. So, uh, also, some of the videos are difficult in that they're moving. So at one point you're seeing some from behind. Now you're trying to see them from the front. You can't see their hands because it's hidden to you. So that can be difficult, but it beats not doing it. Just getting the exercises and trying to move. I had a student last night who had never taken Tai Chi before. She was in her mid 50s in relatively good shape, but didn't want to lose her shape. She took
Hmm.
classes with me and we moved up and down the classroom. And all I said is, keep your shoulders relaxed. When I say step, you
Oh,
step.
I need that
And then,
all the time.
yeah. And
Keep
so at
those.
the end of the, yeah. So at the end of the class, you're in the same relative position you were in the class from where you started. And she was relatively close to where she started. So, okay. So you won. All right. So feel
Hmm.
comfortable with that. So you can do that a number of ways. Whatever you get is better than not doing it. You need to do it. You need to practice your if you don't do Tai Chi for your balance and mindfulness, there are other things, but Tai Chi is very good because it's a prescribed method. It's like reading a book over and over again till you're comfortable reading a book. And so now your body, without thinking about it so much, can move gently and correctively through the form without having to, you know, it's like, the great sportsman of our time, Michael Jordan, when he ran down the court and grabbed the basketball and jumped 4 foot in the air and shot the ball, you don't think he's thinking about, was my hip aligned with my knee and my foot and my arm and my dad, the right pressure to release the ball? None of that. It's all totally by reflex by that time. But
Yeah.
he needed tons of practice to get there. Same thing for Tai Chi. Practice, practice, practice until you don't have to think about it. And now you're feeling yourself.
Yeah.
And that's important to feel yourself. That's really the hallmark of Tai Chi.
This was just fascinating. Thank you for such great tips and knowledge about giving us more knowledge about Tai Chi. So, if somebody wanted to learn more about you, do you have a website?
Yes, Louise, I have a website. I thank you for asking. It is University Tai Chi, TAICHI.com. University Tai Chi, not because I'm a university, because it's located right off of University Parkway in North Sarasota, the northern exit. So it's universitytaichi.com. And looking forward to in the future, we're going to be having some YouTube videos in there for your look to see, and also we'll offboard other students to, if they're looking for private lessons or that kind of thing, they can contact me directly, and we can go from there. But
All right.
uh,
So, would you do Zoom classes with somebody across the country?
I would. Um, I just haven't. Me. I just retired here a couple months ago, and it just seemed like I'd have all the time in the world, and just the opposite's true. You seem like my days are full all day long, but I love to teach Tai Chi. I really do want to help people. I've helped a lot of people over the years who have lost their balance. I had people, we didn't talk about this during the class, who have mindfulness issues. Maybe they've lost a loved one or something else, and they're trying to reconnect with their own feelings. So it can do a world of good for you, and I'm pretty decent at relating to them and helping them, and I'm helping them, and they're helping me. So it's
Oh,
all
that's
good.
awesome. Well, Richard, you were just a wealth of information, and just thank you for sharing and being honest that you started because you needed some extra help. And in this day and age, being authentic and truthful really helps us being able to accept some of maybe our own little downfalls in places where we need to work. So, on behalf of my audience, we really thank you for your candor. So,
Thanks, Louise. A lot of much more famous and knowledgeable, world-renowned teachers than I. A lot of them have a commonality in that they started Tai Chi because they had a problem, a physical problem, and their parents thought they needed help, and so they got them started on the path. So it's
yeah.
not that uncommon.
Well, that is wonderful. So, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up, everybody. And just thank you for joining us. And go ahead and try Tai Chi or something to go ahead and start for your senior health, to go ahead and start something at least to start strengthening that core and regaining your balance. So, until next time, everybody, bye.
By the way,